Hello, welcome to the first episode of Beer, Politics, and Books. I'm your host, Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about the book American Amnesia, written by Hacker and Pierson. The book details the US government's role in America's prosperity and how we've forgotten about the role of government in America's prosperity in recent years. Since Reagan, many conservatives have been forcing a narrative that the government's role in the economy looks something like this.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
For instance, conservatives paint Woodrow Wilson, who created the income tax and the Federal Reserve and other progressive programs, as the worst human being ever. But as we all know, that title definitely goes to your friend Jen. Oh my God, could you at least pretend to have a good time for 2 minutes without ruining everyone else's? Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. But the truth is that in the 20th century, after Woodrow Wilson's presidency and the US government taking a more active role in the economy, we saw our lifespans double and more economic growth than any other time in human history. Some conservatives say that all those great things happened in spite of government getting in the way. However, the authors of this book disagree and say that it was because of government's involvement. For instance, the reason that our lifespans doubled in the 20th century had everything to do with the fact that our babies stopped dying. In the early part of the 20th century, 3 in 10 babies would die before their first birthday. The biggest reason that babies would die was because of bacterial infections due to unsanitary milk or from unsanitary drinking water. And it was only until the government invested a lot of money in our sewage system and in requiring that milk was pasteurized before it was consumed by the public did those mortality rates drop. Which is why one day I hope that CrossFitters manage to exterminate themselves by drinking their raw, unpasteurized organic milk. Or take a look at the large advancements in different types of vaccinations that we invented. Vaccinations in tuberculosis or measles were invented due to a large amount of government investment in that type of research. Antibiotics were probably the most significant medical discovery in the 20th century. However, upon their initial discovery by Sir Alexander Fleming, most private industries weren't interested in investing in it. Only after government research into the development of penicillin was it actually capable of being mass-produced. Government research has spurred other technologies such as satellites, GPS, radar, lithium batteries, and yes, even the internet. The truth is that private industry has a tendency to underinvest in new technological R&D unless they're absolutely certain they can commercialize it, which is why it's very important that government invests in new research opportunities. Government also serves a role in investing in our infrastructure. Dwight D Eisenhower realized that there was a problem in our infrastructure when he was trying to travel across the United States when he was in the military, and it took 30 days to do so. That's right, instead of having a road trip with your family being a few days of hell, back before the 1950s, it used to actually be a few months of hell. Now, thanks to government investment in our highways and interstate highways, we can now ship goods across our country with the speed and efficiency that the private sector simply would not have invested in. Government also protects us from negative externalities. For instance, the Clean Air Act of 1970 ensures that our air quality is not as poor as Mumbai or Beijing's. As someone that's actually visited Beijing and Mumbai, I can assure you I'm very thankful for this legislation. The expectation that the private sector would somehow regulate its own negative externalities is about as laughable as my chances of getting with Kate Upton. God, I wish. However, the American economy that did involve so much government investment that we knew and loved is now gone. We are now close to last in our infrastructure investment in comparison to other developed countries. We are also almost close to last in terms of education in comparison to other developed countries. The National Health Institute, which did so much research into new vaccines and cures for diseases, has gotten their funding repeatedly cut by conservatives in Congress. Union membership, which ensured collective bargaining rights of workers, has dropped from 30% of the American workforce to 10% in the last 30 years. And government-funded R&D, which used to contribute about 4% of GDP, has been cut in half. In the 1950s, faith in our federal government was at an all-time high of 80%. Now it's as low as 15%. And the reason for that is not because people have had actually a fundamental change in their viewpoints of government's role in the economy, but rather people's faith that the government can actually do anything effectively has changed. And the Republican Party creates the very problems that they have a tendency to complain about. For instance, the Republican candidate will campaign on the idea that government is ineffective, they'll get elected, they'll go to Washington, D.C., they'll slash all the budgets of government agencies, making them ineffective, and then they'll go back to their home state and say, look, aren't those government agencies pretty incompetent and ineffective? Well, yeah, they are now because you slashed all their budgets. It's kind of like when your shitty ex-girlfriend says that the reason that your relationship is having problems is because you don't trust her enough. And then she goes and cheats on you and says that the reason that she cheated on me was because I didn't trust her enough. Well, yeah, now I don't trust you because you cheated on me. Government is sort of like your mother. When you're living with her, you sort of just view her as some sort of oppressive regime that's just constantly telling you to do chores or when to be home and curfews and whatnot. However, when you finally move away from home and you start living by yourself, do you actually realize and appreciate the things that she actually did for you? For instance, whenever I throw my dirty laundry in the laundry hamper, for some unknown reason, it doesn't just wash and fold itself automatically. Or whenever I open the refrigerator, for some unknown reason, food doesn't just magically appear there even though I didn't go to the grocery store. It's the same way that people vote to cut government funding for different programs and then simultaneously bitch about the fact that there's a giant pothole in the street in front of their house. Did you think that the free market was just going to fix your pothole for free? Did you think Walmart or McDonald's was just going to come over there and fill your pothole just because it would be a nice thing to do? If you thought that, you clearly do not understand how the free market actually functions. Overall, I give this book 4 stars out of 5, and I highly encourage it for anyone that wants to know more about how the US government's role in our economy is very important for its economic prosperity and growth. Anyways, guys, this is my first episode of Beer, Politics, and Books. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please like the video, and stay tuned next time for more episodes.